And we are live.
Okay, we are live. And welcome to our 12th episode of How to Thrive as a Human in an AI World. Today we've got Lucas Wunsch joining us from Munich, and we're talking about transactions and versus relationships. And this is a topic Lucas and I have been talking about for many months, it seems, and certainly ties into what Simo and I have been talking about for 3 months now about helping the humans in an AI world and how to thrive. So welcome, Lucas. Maybe you would like to introduce yourself to our viewing audience.
Very good. Happy to do so. Thanks for having me. I'm Lucas, based in Munich, as Steph said, and work as the head of knowledge for an IT consultancy of like 5,000 people or so. I'm really excited to join in here to meet Simo in real life, even though we connected on LinkedIn already. And Steph and I we've been talking quite a bit about that topic, right? Really excited for the conversation today. In terms of knowledge background, I'm more on the people side of KM, right? Not so much on the technology side. But again, in that world that we're living in right now, I think we always have to bridge between technology and people, between AI and humans, and I think also between transactions and relationship in it, right? So perfect match to our topic today, I'd say.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, the whole transactions versus relationship thing is something that I know since we started talking about it, however many months ago that was, it pops up for me in a lot of different situations. I think one of the most, I was going to say annoying, I'm not sure that's the right word. One of the most noticeable ones for me was this past February, and taking an Uber, and Uber left me stranded, and I left and ended up taking a taxi to get home, which cost me more, but was a much nicer experience than I'd had in the Uber that I'd taken to get to where I was going. And so that really struck me, in that moment, in that experience, the importance of having a relationship, because the relationship, the wrapping, I'm going to say wrapping, the things around having a relationship help when the transaction fails. And transactions fail, technology fails, right? The internet goes down, the app update fails, something doesn't go as planned, right? Life intervenes. And so having a relationship with someone then helps get over those bumps and go, oh, hold on here. Whereas if you're focused just on the transactions all the time, when the transaction fails, and you lose customers, you lose people, right?
Yeah, maybe sometimes what I was just thinking about, maybe sometimes you even a transaction even fails without you noticing, right? Not in the sense that the train is stopping up, that obviously you will notice. But if you think about AI and the non-guided content generation, for example, right, you might end up having some content that you believe is true, I don't know, right, but which might not totally live up to what you've been looking for, right? Hallucinations and so on. And I think, just waiting for big changes, big disruptions or so might not always be the right approach here, right? So, but I'm fully with you. I mean, that's where humans come into play, right? I mean, if my laptop is broken, I need to call someone from help desk, right? And they're gonna help me out, and then we're back with the human side, right? Because I mean, it's a bit extreme in that sense, right? If my laptop isn't working, I can't send them any email. That's what you read in the news every now and then, right? My laptop broke and I had to send an email, which I was technically not able to, right? So, I do feel like the symbiosis of people and technologies is something that we need to be even more careful about, right?
Yeah. But isn't it that we can be transactional with people too? That it's not only like what makes it transactional, it's not the technique, it's not the technical devices, but we can be both with humans too.
Sure. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I was looking for the opposite, right? Can we be relational with with technology. I think that would be the opposite
Yeah,
part of
well,
it, right? Yeah, but
and that's interesting. I actually prompted AI to answer that question, like just before we started, and it said that we can have a relationship with AI too, and that's what we have been talking about with Stephanie, like throughout all the episodes almost. Like what's the relation that we want to build with AI? And the examples that AI gave me about the relational relationship with AI, human AI relationship, is writer collaborating with AI over time on creative work, a therapist using AI for ongoing case reflection and emotional support tools, or a team leader using AI to help develop team dynamics or strategy with context awareness.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I read an article a couple of weeks ago now about people who were dating AIs, you know.
That's a
okay,
relation.
Yep, that's a relationship.
But
So,
hey, AI gave me risks of
oh, did
the
it? What
relation.
did it
There,
say?
there were no risks actually with the transactional part,
Oh,
okay,
according to AI. It was just that the limitations are no emotional depth or no relational growth, or can feel cold and mechanical or
yeah,
disposable. But the risks with relational stuff was over reliance, blurred boundaries, and anthropomorphism.
oh,
Mm,
anthropomorphism. Yeah,
yes,
making
thank
it
you
seem like
for
a human. Yeah,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. When it's not. Um,
It's not.
so,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. That's yeah. I would agree with those things.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's
The anthropomorphism thing is quite interesting, right? Because in the end, I mean, when you think
mhm.
about all the developments in the market, right, and AI is AI going to substitute our workforce and so on, or to which degree is AI going to substitute our workforce, right? I think that's what comes into play here, right? Because in the end, I mean, just speaking for myself, right, if I was to give away 30% of my tasks and a machine, let's say, would take that over, I don't know, I would maybe feel sorry for the machine, or at least I would feel like, okay, am I not good enough, or why do we need to give it to a machine, right? On the other side, if I was to give the same task to a colleague, kind of a physical person, right, a human being, then I would say, okay, fine, right? So I think in that sense, I mean, I've seen quite a bit of that, right, with regards to building bots and so and agents. I think it all kind of moves towards replicating some sort of human behavior in the sense of conversation or so, right? Whilst at the same time, that's what we've been discussing in Dublin last year, right? Whilst at the same time, the question is the goal actually to have a machine that looks like a human or behaves like a human, or is the goal something else, right?
yeah,
There's definitely a
Yeah.
risk. I mean, it's a risk, maybe an opportunity, right? But again, I think it's also a question about where you talk about AI, right? If you think about social care, emotional support, I heard Simone, right? It rings quite a bell, or it raised quite a yellow flag with me, right? Because it's like, okay, maybe for me, kind of the social interaction, empathy, and so on, right? Is emotional comfort is kind of more the most human thing I could think of, right?
yeah, yeah. And
Mm,
yet, I've
there's a
heard
thing.
people.
Mm,
So I
yeah.
was going to say, I've heard people say, about some things, statements in the press that in the comments underneath the video or the article, people will say that they've heard AI be more empathetic than than this person has been. I think it's a good mimic,
It's a good
like,
Yeah,
mimic, and they can score. AI can score in empathy tests higher than average human beings
yeah,
because they are mimicking empathy so well. And it doesn't mean really that they are empathetic, but they can do the stuff. They
yeah,
can use the words
yeah,
that feel empathetic to us. But hey, if you think of a therapist, a human therapist, what they sometimes do, they are helping the client to connect the dots.
Right.
They are helping them to remember that, hey, you talked earlier about this. In this situation, you earlier mentioned your mother. So I think linguistic models are great at that. They are really great at kind of like remembering contexts where words were used. So they could be helpful in and supporting us emotionally or cognitively in a therapeutic way too. But yeah, it's a muddy water
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it is. And I just should remind people that are watching us, I want to say hello to Lorenzo and Kevin. Thank you for joining us. And anyone else that's out there. And if you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. LinkedIn doesn't, I always forget to say this part at the beginning. I can get 10 or 15 minutes and then go, oh yeah, we're supposed to say this. If you have questions or comments, put them in the chat. We will respond to them. StreamYard doesn't let us respond to LinkedIn comments. Unfortunately, their interface, or I don't know whether it's about LinkedIn or StreamYard, but somewhere there's a glitch that doesn't allow that transaction we can see the LinkedIn comments, but not reply to them. So the transaction isn't there to let us form the relationship. Well, it lets us form the relationship this way by being verbal about it, by acknowledging it live. So yeah, so there's a transaction that's missing, right? So, but maybe in this case it's better that it's missing, and it allows us to respond live to Lorenzo.
There's got to be a reason. It's my first time in here, right? But there's got to be a reason why people join a live session, right? Instead of watching a video, instead of reading it up on LinkedIn or wherever, right? YouTube, maybe some other platforms, right? So I think that's definitely something about what happens when people get together and share ideas or jump on topics and exchange, right? And I feel like, sometimes that's, as we discussed earlier, right? I think it's really easy to get into the transactional mode of I'm doing my job, right? I sit here since 8 and I'm going to sit here till 8 to 5, right? And just go home afterwards. And I spent my whole day in meetings, right? And it's like, okay, great. What are we actually spending the meetings on, right? Is it a standard, okay, hi, here you go. Those are my standard questions out. Then it could be automated, right? It could be an AI chatbot or whatnot, right? If people like that, right? But I think more often than not, it's also about what happens in between the lines, right? Reading between the lines, and that's something where humans are more maybe a bit more complex than what an AI could grab.
Yeah,
maybe.
I was reading about the definitions of like relational versus transactional, and one of the traits in relational where that it's more long-term engagement involved there, and like and in the end we are more engaged, like both parties or all parties are more engaged. What do you think about, because my adult kids, I remember like when they were teenagers, I remember them having discussions with their friends, not talking to a phone like real time, but they were having asynchronic communication with their friends. They were recording messages and then sending them. And then they were, having a discussion with recorded messages. Do you think it's less engaged? Or could there be a same engagement in recorded messages as in live discussion?
As my gut feeling would say, I have a little bit of a yellow flag with the definition that relational needs to be long term, right? I think you can be relational but very long, very short term in the end, right? Just, hey, I was about to send an email to my colleague. No, I'm gonna pick up my phone and call him or send a voice message or so, right? And I think it's a question of a spectrum, right? An email might be very kind of formal. A call or going over and talking to them in person is maybe the most personal topic, right? And then I think there's different layers in between, different stops on the way, right? And I think a voice message is still kind of I don't know, maybe it's meet in person, call, send a voice message, and send an email. I don't know. I mean, if you will, right? I mean, if you were to put that in order, maybe that's how I would order it, right? Or rank
I like
it.
that.
But
Yeah.
I think still a voice message is more personal than a text message than an email or so, right? Yet it's not the same as if I was to call my colleagues, right? But obviously,
face
every
to face
format,
is
yeah, exactly, yeah. And I mean, every format. One thing that I want to add here, right, is that every format has its advantages and disadvantages in the sense of the fact that you have an asynchronous discussion might also have an advantage for you and the recipient, right? In the sense that I can think it through, right? I can think it through. I can record. If I don't like it, I'll pull it back and send it out again, right? My colleague or whoever the recipient of the message has a chance to listen to it again, right? Listen to it faster, slower than I'm speaking. I don't know what, right? I mean, it depends on the person and the context, right? But I think there is, and that also is kind of a relation in the sense of how much time do you want to spend. If you want to be mad, right? How much time do I want to spend listening to that bloody long voice message versus how much of a personal?
You can speed it up.
I mean, yeah, exactly. How much space do I actually give to the personal interaction? How much space is actually required in order to get the message across, right? So if my sister wants to tell me, hey, I'm there, she doesn't need to send me a voice message, right? A quick message, a text message is fine, right? If there's more complex topics, then maybe we gotta switch to another medium.
Yeah.
But you were talking about different mediums, Lucas. You were. I'm just checking if I heard you right and I understood you right, because it's like you were talking about like it's more relational if we move from email to phone call or maybe to a face-to-face discussion. So you were kind of drawing a spectrum here in the air that it's more transactional if we just write emails.
Depends, right? I mean, yeah, I think it was a bit. I try to put it on the spot, right? I think you can also be very relational writing an email, right? But I think if you was to put it down, right? I mean, if very relational, very personal email and so on, I do feel like there's something missing when you think about an email.
Well, it's the resonance.
Exactly. Yeah, as opposed to some of the other
body language, nonverbal cues.
Yeah,
kind of the resonating space that we are sharing.
Yeah. Well, and I think about you know I think any situation can be transactional, and it can be relational as well. And I think about the what I mentioned before about my experience with Uber and the taxi, back in February, and the Uber got me into Toronto just fine from out in the suburbs. The ride was fine. I didn't fear for my life at any point. And it was okay, but very transactional. There was no discussion between me and the driver. I listened to his music for the 45-minute drive, and that's okay. It wasn't that loud. I could just block it out of my head and stare at the window. But then coming back when I couldn't get when the Uber driver had canceled twice and screwed up my ability to book another Uber, and I end up having to take a taxi. The taxi, is there within 5 minutes. It's late at night. He asked me if I wanted to stop and get a coffee. He offers me water. He offers, what radio station I wanted to listen to, if the heat needed to be adjusted. We had a little chit chat about, driving around Toronto and the highway traffic and, and that kind of stuff for a few minutes. And then we rode the rest of the way in silence. And because it was late when I got home, he made sure that I got in the house all right. So it was I have no idea. I'm sure I have a receipt from him. I'm sure, I could track him down if I needed to, but I'll never see him again. I'll never see the Uber driver again. But for the 45 minutes of that taxi ride, I had a relationship with that taxi driver.
I disagree. I do disagree. I think that was a very friendly transaction
Which
with
one?
the taxi driver. With the taxi driver, that was great customer service.
Yes.
That was purely on that level. Like, do you need water? What kind of radio station you want to listen? That was very polite and very transactional. In my mind, that's still transactional. It's very good customer service, but
Yeah, but maybe it was the transactional with a relational flavor to it, right? So maybe they gray
maybe.
between black and
It's a
white, right? That's what I
it's a
would say.
it's a start of a relationship. I would use that taxi again. I would that taxi company again. I would use generally a taxi over Uber anytime.
What about if the taxi driver? There's two things. What about if the taxi driver would have talked about their family or asked you about your family, and you would like find like, oh my God, we got 3 kids, both of us, or that would be more in a more personal level or more relational level. But now you were discussing like only the kind of the flavors of the trip. And yeah, you mentioned the long-term possibility of a long-term relationship with a customer relationship with that driver or that company.
Yeah,
That
or taxi service
yeah,
in general
yeah,
over Uber.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
long term, it kind of the thing is existing there, kind of the
Yeah. Well, and a few months later, I was in another situation. I was in Toronto, and the subway broke down, and I was in a position I could have, if I had any inclination to use Uber again, I would have used Uber. Certainly, when I got up to the sidewalk, I stopped and talked to a woman for a second who had also been on the subway. And she said she was calling an Uber, and I immediately thought, yeah, I'm not doing that. And flagged down, managed. Luckily, the taxi ferries were in my favor, and managed to flag a taxi down within a minute. It was the third one that went by, and the first one really that was able to see me and stop in enough time. So, it's I think that's the thing about relationships is you have an eye to the longer term. That first taxi driver, yes, I understand why you're saying though each of those questions was a transaction, but to bundle them all together is the start of a relationship.
it's a possibility.
It's a
Yes.
possibility. Whereas Uber's, abandoning me, in the middle of the night. Well, not the middle of the night. It was 10:30, but it it guaranteed that I'm not doing an Uber again. I won't. I've deleted the
Like
app. I deleted my
it
account.
it
I'm
was
done.
it was not the start of a beautiful relationship. It was an instant breakup.
Yes. Yeah. It was a
Uber was ditching you,
yeah. I ditched them.
ghosting.
Ghosting. Yeah. It's like the speed dating. Like, I'm not putting them on my card. Going. Yeah. I don't want a follow-up coffee date with them. Yeah. They're not. There's no match at the end of the night. So
So we
what
can have a so we have a we can have a transactional encounter with humans or maybe AI that might lead to a relationship.
I'm not sure about the whole AI relationship thing. I think
I know, I know.
I think there's a lot of problems there, and it opens up a whole can of worms around mental health, which is actually what this article was talking about too, that I read a couple of weeks ago. And I know you read it too because I passed it on. But well, I passed it on. I'm not sure if you read it, but there's the whole, and we take AI as a solution to mental health, because it's always available and it's very, it mimics support and it mimics empathy. But it also doesn't challenge us the way that a real life therapist might challenge us, or a real life friend that, if we have a close friend that we can sit down and have this conversation
That
with,
we have a relationship with, right?
Yeah. And the person say, well, really, remember, AI is just going to go, oh yeah, this is how
you can ask AI you can prompt it to challenge you.
Yeah, you can, but you have to prompt it. It doesn't do it by itself. It doesn't, I don't have to tell you to challenge me. You just challenge me,
Yeah.
I don't have to set the parameters, oh, if I don't like it when you challenge me, I don't just say, okay, stop challenging me. Like
I would love to have those kind of I would love to have a remote on other human beings, like sometimes with a with a close
But isn't
person.
that why we're human, Simon?
Well, yeah, but just playing with the possibility of like, please don't challenge me for like 24 hours.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
It's like in those TV shows where they're holding up signs, right? Clap now or so, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the opposite way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. My challenging buttons are sore. Please don't push them.
Yeah, exactly. Leave me alone, right? Don't drive me up to battle today, right? Yeah, it's
yeah.
But AI is kind of.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Isn't that what being grumpy is? A warning to people to not.
Best case, yes. Yeah. But there's people who are even more excited to actually bring you up to speed, right? Once you're grumpy, and it's like, yeah, let's tickle you even more, right? So I think
well, I think
that might be part of the game, right? But I mean, maybe that's where creativity actually comes in, right? And the AI stops when you tell it to stop, right? And maybe humans don't do that, and maybe that's what they call creativity, right? And I still remember the discussions we had in Dublin last year, right, about AI, can AI be creative and so on, right? And I feel like, wow, I mean, yeah, it can be creative, right? To a certain degree, I'd say, right? I was creating a picture for a colleague this morning, right? Because he told me a joke about Northern Germans saying hi to each other, right? And so on, right? So I put that in ChatGPT, create a GIF, and I got that beautiful picture that I sent him, right? And he was the proudest colleague ever, right? So I think it works in that sense of creating something based on the briefing and based on the context that you give it, right? But I do feel like there might be some thresholds, right? And there's definitely something that we humans can, or at least theoretically speaking, can steer that AI is, thankfully, I would say, not able to do so yet, right? So about grabbing emotions and so on, right? So I mean, yeah. How am I actually doing today? Am I bloody tired? Am I all energized? Is it warm? Is it cold? Did I have great meetings before or not? Right? Maybe the meetings is what AI can kind of pull out of my team's history or so, right? But yeah, in the end, I think there's something more to the humans and humans speaking to each other than what we could grab with AI. Yeah. Thankfully, in big letters.
Yeah.
And also we could ask AI to help us to sound less grumpy. For example, if we want to write a message or send a message and then check with AI that does this sound grumpy to you?
Yeah.
Or, it's like, what should I say differently to make it more friendly? And that's what AI is good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still it needs us to hold the kind of the reins, like
humans in the loop.
Yeah,
for sure. I think about I know we've talked about this before, the AIs and the how they sort of just passively go along in this sort of positive yes ending kind of way, right? And people end up committing suicide because of their interactions, because because the AI says, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
No.
No, it's not, it's not, but so yeah, this is the mental health aspect of it, and we should be having those conversations with a real human. And if there's not a real human in available at 3:00 in the morning, then maybe that's what we need to look at, rather than farming this out to AI that's just going to yes and I like yes and as an improv technique activity, to move past blockages and to be creative, to be innovative, to come up with different solutions. But there are times and places where yes and isn't appropriate, right?
And also in improv, I mean, say nope is a tool in improv too.
Yeah.
It's kind of about
when
like indicating like when, and also helping us to recognize when we are actually and genuinely inspired or not.
Yeah, or when we are reaching the end of our abilities, right, or the edge of our abilities. I was just thinking about that, right? Steph, your reference to 3 a.m., right? I have some mental problems. I reach out to someone, which is an AI in that sense, right? Or maybe, hey, I reached the end of my abilities, right? I can't help you as being a machine, right now. So maybe you gotta call us at 6 a.m. or so whenever someone's back, or I don't know, the AI can wake someone up to answer the call or whatnot, right? So I think and that's what we have in what I see in human interactions as well, right? Maybe sometimes it's really just being there for someone without actually being able to do anything at all, right? If someone's going through a hard time or so, it's just about being there and zero transaction in that sense, right? Just being there, sitting next to someone sobbing because I don't know what happened, right? And in the end, it's that's the mere thing, and that's the beauty of having a relationship, right?
Yeah,
I really love
that. Sitting on a sofa at night, right, next to your partner, right, and it's like, yeah, watching TV together, right? There's definitely a relationship, but there's no transaction at all, right? You're just watching Netflix, and that's about it, right? So I think that's that's something that I sorry, maybe just one last thought on that, right? I think in the end, for me, that personally speaking, that's kind of the beauty of our everyday life, right? Because or of my work-life balance, if you will, right? Because I can have the busiest day ever, like back-to-back meetings, you name it, all the challenges that a jobs bring, right? And then at night, the evening is just like, breathe out, not being stuck and not being pushed into, okay, we need to speak about this and that, and let's keep on going, right? But it's just the mere fact of being there with someone you love, or being someone, with someone that is there for you, right? And that can where you can be yourself. Maybe that's what it is, right? And I feel like,
I think
also to actively get away from the transaction, pushing yourself away from the transactional thing of like looking at your company phone or whatnot, right? Just honestly enjoying the flow, right? Being on the move and so on. I think that's what every one of us is experiencing at some point in his or her career, right? But also to look at the opposite side of, okay, where is it that I actually come down to myself, where I can be creative, where I can do some, I don't know, drawings or whatnot, right? Steph, you're far better at that than I am, right? But I think we need both, honestly, right? Go with the flow, but also go down and come down and so on.
I think what you said about just being there was, I think it really, really, really had an impact on me, because it's like sometimes the most valuable gifts you can give to other people is to not give advice, not comment, not share a parallel experience. It's just to witness, just to be there, and preferably in the same space, like at least in a video conference setting like this, but having this ability to share the vibrational space, like being in a in harmony in that sense. for example, if you think of 12-step groups, and especially like talking to a group that are there for you, how powerful that might be. Art of hosting uses that. There's the talking stick, sharing circles. Art of, there's lots of methods that actually use this powerful phenomena of being witnessed, being seen and heard, and not like it's discussion, but just being witnessed.
Yeah.
And wow, thank you, Lucas.
Yeah.
I think that was really cool.
Yeah, that holding space for someone, to just
maybe also space to, sorry, I interrupted. Maybe also holding space to acknowledge that one is that two of us or three of us are living in different worlds right now, or acting in moving not different worlds, but it's kind of I don't know, in different operating systems or whatever you want to call it, right? In different modes of being right now. One might be stuck in the transactional side. The other one might be pushing forward. It's got the relational side, right? Just be there, just be there, and then you suddenly find a way to each other, right? Towards each other, and you can either bring someone out of a mode of kind of apathy and just being in the, I don't know, in a sinkhole, right? And maybe you can also pull someone up and push someone down, right? I think that goes like a balance at some point.
Because it's like, I just imagined a situation where I talk to a group of people that are there to listen, to witness, and talking to an AI. And it's quite a different experience, even in my imagination. It feels like talking to an AI is like talking to a void, talking to a mirror, talking to yourself instead of other living beings. There's nobody there that's actually witnessing.
Yeah. It's, I agree. It's talking. It's like talking to myself.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, or
talking to a broken mirror, maybe. I hope it's, if you talk to yourself, it's more than just talking to an AI, right? But you know what I mean. So it's maybe a broken mirror that shows some aspects of myself, right? That kind of that relates to some of the. I mean, definitely AI. What AI definitely can do is to kind of learn from how you behave, how you send emails or whatnot, right? Transactional, how you do that, right? And it can kind of translate that to patterns, right? But I think there's definitely some aspects that are hard, if not impossible, to grab there, right? So maybe the mirror is either very dirty or it has some it's a bit scattered, right?
Yeah, some cracks, some pieces out of it.
Some cracks, some pieces, whatever, right? But in the end, I mean, maybe that's fair, right? I was going to say, I was looking for the problem in the picture, right? Of looking at yourself in a mirror that's a bit broken or so. I mean, sometimes I think if you think about a cabin, right, going to Scandinavia or so, right, and in Canada it's the same, right? You go to a cabin in the woods and you acknowledge the fact that not everything is working perfectly fine, right? Not everything is like fresh from the store, and that's something that people actually enjoy, right? And that's something that I personally speaking enjoy, right? And who cares about those small cracks in the mirror, so, right? I think that the big thing is about seeing beauty in what you have, right? And maybe that's something where I think that's something where I have some trouble with AI, right?
Yeah.
Because I have an easy time seeing beauty in what I see when I walk around and so on. But the moment I maybe that's me, right? But the moment I log into that AI, it's like, okay, someone told me it's I mean, it would have taken me ages to create that picture for my colleague this morning, right? So I did it in 2 minutes, but I texted like, okay, draw that picture, right? The scene is this and that aspect should be covered, right? And I got that picture in a minute or so, right? But it's not like
that was transactional.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm just not the transactional person as such, right? And it gives me much more energy or whatnot, right? To actually speak to Steph, speak to Yosimo, and come up with an idea. So instead of just instead of just waiting for a machine to do their job, right?
Yeah.
Should we quickly go to the comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, at the same time, like showing this comment, I was just briefly commenting what oh, sorry. I just forgot. I just stumbled on my shoelaces. So please go on.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods is also about willingness to try new things, but we don't always risk that in the workspace. I think that's a great conversation starter for you, Steph. But my personal view is, we need to. Maybe it's also about. For me, it's also about a mindset topic, right? Is it like, am I gonna, if I want to be really creative, right, risk something, go with the flow, learn by burn, as I said, right? I think I personally would never go to an AI, at least not in terms of conceptual strategic work and so on, right? Before Christmas last year, I was asking AI to create a poem, right? Because I wanted to teach some colleagues, right, which worked perfectly with an AI, but I wouldn't really go that far as to do anything major, anything really critical in an AI, right? But again, as you said, right, I think it's a thin line between trying out things and actually having the backup, having the safety space in order to be creative in that sense, right? But definitely, sometimes it's really energizing, right? It can be really energizing to be really creative, to jump out of the everyday setting, put on a clown nose, and just do some cool stuff every now
and it feels like with humans we can ask questions. With humans we can ask questions with our clown noses or not, and not expect an answer or not to give an answer. But with AI, it's more like I'm posing a question and I'm waiting for an answer. But with humans, we are kind of sometimes, if we are not responding with an answer, we are helping each other's think. We are actually just witnessing the question, and it's all said. It's there. It's out in the space that we share. And the answer might come from the person who was asking the question, because there were other people witnessing and holding the space for that question. So that's a beauty that's not there with AI.
Yeah. Well, if you ask a question to another person or to a group of people, they have the opportunity to go, I don't understand, or tell me more, or, ask some kind of clarification.
Is that where you're heading, right?
Yeah. If you ask the question to AI, then it just puts a bunch of words together that may or may not make sense, that may or may not be an hallucination. It doesn't ever ask. It's not thinking, it's not conscious, it's not going to ask that clarifying question to say, I don't understand what you mean, or I don't understand what you're trying to achieve with this. What's your ultimate objective? Where asking a human being might get that response.
Yeah, and in the end, maybe to the follow-up question, right? I think it's as a thought provoker in the sense of getting some ideas without having to worry about the backlog of or what follows after it, right? That might be a nice use case for AI, right? Just get some crazy ideas without just to make my point, right? Without having to deal with all the ideas that follow, right? And having to say, oh no, Steph, your idea, no, it's not for me, right? So it's like AI can actually, in that sense, create a safe space in the sense of not having to relate to someone else, if that makes any sense, right? So, but obviously, as you said, as I put in the chat, right, it can be a conversation starter, but it shouldn't be. For me, the AI shouldn't be a conversation ender, right? So it's
no.
Yeah.
A safe space to not be relating with somebody else, like with AI. You just said that AI could be, and that's actually spooky.
It is, but it depends. I think it totally depends on the context, right?
Yeah.
It totally depends on the context. if you go back to what I previously said, right? Relational, someone you care about sitting next to you on the sofa, right? Not doing nothing at all can be quite a safe space, but it can also the opposite can be a safe space in the sense of just being by yourself, right? Yourself with the machine, and I use the word machine on purpose, right? Being there with the machine, just trying out some things and so on, right? It's like I mean, it's not like if you come up with a new concept for how to do KM in my company, right? It's not like I do a quick scribble and go to my CEO, do whatever you want with it, right? I need to be concise. I need to kind of put some more flesh to the bone there, right? And think about it, add some human thought, add some. And if you think about a strategy or so, right, you can be as concise as possible. You need to put it into context, right? Maybe that's another thing that comes up now, right? So I think it all depends on the context, right? Sometimes it's great to be creative-ish with an AI. Sometimes it's much better to be around people, right? To bring, I'm pretty sure you have even more experience on that than I do, right? But to bring people together just as a think tank, as a I don't know what, right? To have some nice ideas and nice methods to actually push people to be creative, right? But again, I think it's really depending on the context. Yeah.
Of course, everything is.
Yeah.
That's interesting what Boffin writes.
Yeah. There's a lot people judge each other a lot.
Do they?
I have found that yes, yeah, they do.
I'm aware of that, and at the same time I have different experiences also, that I have had lots of experiences where there's no judging.
Yeah. The question is, for me, the question is what you make out of it, right? I know that we had some discussion with our talent acquisition team, right? And they talked about unconscious biases that are kind of popping up and happening automatically, right, in the background. And I think, Simon, to your point, I think it's really about what you make out of it, right? Is it like, oh, Lucas is having a colorful flowery shirt on? Is that what is it saying about me, right? I'm sitting inside, which means, okay, I don't know what, right? So I think I think there's I would say there's some bias around wherever we move, wherever we go, right? When I walk by a restaurant, it's like, oh, that smell is strange, I wouldn't go there, right? It has not. They didn't talk to me at all, right? But in the end, it's you want that one. In the end, it's there's something to it that's maybe not manifested, right? Maybe that's what we call implicit knowledge in KM, right? But there's so many fragrances, right? And I feel like we are on a very long journey. Every human is on a very long journey to find his or her way around dealing with judgments, dealing with biases, right? Acknowledging them and kind of making sense out of it, right?
I think there's a saying. There's a saying.
That's the danger.
There's a saying that there are two kinds of people. That see a half full glass is other ones are seeing it half full, and the other party is seeing it half empty. So I think in my life I have been suffering with being not enough judgy, because it's like I've had so many troubles with people because I'm trusting too much. I'm always thinking the best. I'm always thinking that they know what they are doing. I respect their professionality. I really think that they know at least the same amount of this as I do, and being disappointed many times, and still I'm choosing not to be judgy.
I think we're into some sort of I think we're into a sort of a cultural discussion right now, because I do feel like I mean, I think that the German way, as I experience it in around me, right, is really more on the half empty side of the glass, right, and really looking for maybe not always as excited and as open-minded as one might need to, right? And I think that's
I'm not the typical thing.
I was about to say I don't know enough about fins to make. I don't want to make any judgments here, right? But so I left that open deliberately, right? But I think in the end, I mean, also coming back to what we discussed earlier, I think it's really about finding the right balance between looking at the opportunities and the challenges, right? Half empty is an opportunity to refill. That's maybe a good approach here as well, right? And yeah, again, on context, right? I mean, there's let's be very fair. There's days where I feel like, okay, the glass is not only half empty; it's like, I don't know, 3/4 of it is empty, right? And there's no option to refill, right? And it's just down. And again, that's what we need to live with, right? And then I don't know. And that's where relations come in again, right? To close the gap, right? To close the loop here, where relations come in. I log on to a meeting with one of my coworkers, and she's like, "Yeah, you look bloody over the moon today, right? Or bloody tired today, or I don't know what, right? Is there anything wrong?" And that's what I mean. I haven't had an AI tell me that yet, right? So still waiting for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The AI doesn't say, "Hey, you look great today. What's going on?" So yeah. And maybe we should end it there because we're at 10 of the hour. No, 9 minutes to the hour. So we've got a little bit over. But we've had a wonderful discussion today. Thank you both. Look for Simo and I next week in our final episode of the series. And we're taking a break for the summer, and we'll see what September holds. And thank you, Lucas, for joining us. And yes, thank you. And good day.
Thanks for
having me. Am I doing this right?
Good day ahead.
Thanks.
I hope so.